All right, let's get into it. We hear all the time how AI is completely changing software development. But, what happens when that change just leads to chaos? Today, we're going to break down a pretty fascinating system designed to stop that from happening. It's a governance first architecture called the Caris Stack. And the whole idea is to treat your codebase less like a suggestion box and more like a constitutional republic with absolute unbreakable laws. And this quote, right from their own manual, really just sets the whole tone. This is not about gentle reminders or, best practices. We are talking about a massive shift away from just trusting people to do the right thing to a system of mathematically enforced physical guardrails inside your code. It's a pretty bold claim, so let's see how they actually pull it off. So, what's the problem that needs a solution this strict? Well, the creators of this whole stack have a name for it. They call it AI slop, that messy, unpredictable, and frankly, often low-quality digital stuff that gets spit out when you let AI just run wild without any real governance. And the definition they use is super specific. This isn't just about code with a few bugs. No, it's about that generic, kind of soulless output that I think we're all starting to recognize. The default themes, the weird design hallucinations that make no sense, and maybe most important, those little violations of your project's core architecture that always come back to bite you later. This slide just lays it all out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got the old way, the chaos, right? Relying on trusting vibes, which leads to that AI slop we talked about, creating stress and a ton of technical debt. But on the right, that's the promise of the Caris Stack, a world of order built on things called hard gates, mathematical enforcement, and something they call an unforgettable aesthetic. It's a total challenge to how things are normally done. So how do you fight back against all that AI slop? Well, according to this philosophy, you don't just write a few more rules. Nope. You draft a constitution. You establish the absolute law of the land for your entire code base. And the really crucial idea here is that governance comes first. You don't build an app and then try to bolt on some rules at the end. The rules are the foundation. This system is designed from the ground up to be the supreme legal document that everybody, both human developers and their AI assistants, has to obey. No exceptions. And these are basically some of the amendments in that Constitution. And just notice how uncompromising they are. Unvetted third-party packages? Banned. An AI wants to generate some code, it has to pass an audit first. You used a deprecated part of the code base? That's not a warning, that is a build-blocking violation. The code will physically not compile. But look, words in a document are one thing. Enforcement is really everything. So how does this Constitution build its own police force? Well, it's through a concept they call hard gates. Okay, this is the core mechanism. A hard gate is not some suggestion from a linter that you can just ignore. It is an automated checkpoint in your development pipeline that mathematically validates the code. If that code violates the Constitution, the gate does not open. The bad code is physically blocked from ever being merged into the main branch. Here's a perfect example of that in action, the Code Review Routing Protocol. The system automatically calculates something called cyclomatic complexity, which is basically just a score for how complex and risky a piece of code is. Simple changes, with a score under 5, they get a quick sanity check from a lightweight AI. Anything in that medium range, that requires a more powerful AI to actually verify the logic. But what if the score is greater than 20? Well, the system doesn't ask. It tells. It mathematically forces a human senior architect to conduct a full audit. There is no override button. The gate is absolute. This makes sure that the most complex, riskiest code always gets a set of human eyes on it. Now, this whole constitutional approach isn't just about code style or how complex things are. It goes way deeper into building systems that are what they call clinically resilient, systems that are designed to survive what the documentation ominously calls the horror path. Oh man, we have all been there. You've just spent forever filling out a long form, you finally hit submit, and nothing. The server failed, and all that work you just did is gone. That feeling, that is the horror path, and the Caris Stack has a very strict protocol for dealing with it. And right here, the Constitution mandates the solutions. It enforces patterns like circuit breakers, which intelligently stop your app from just hammering a service that's already down. And most importantly, it requires state restoration. That means user drafts have to be saved locally before you even try to submit them. So if the network fails, the app just restores your work. In this system, it is a constitutional right for the user not to lose their data. Now, all this talk of automated gates and AI audits, it might sound like the human is getting taken out of the loop. But this brings us to the most important and honestly, the most defiant part of this system's entire philosophy. It's a philosophy that's summed up in two simple sentences that really define the absolute sovereignty of the human architect. But yeah, don't get it twisted. This philosophy is not anti-AI at all. It's fiercely, unapologetically pro-human control. The model is human plus AI, but it is a partnership with a very, very clear hierarchy. The human is the architect. The human is the visionary. The AI, it's the tool. A powerful tool, for sure, but ultimately it's a subordinate, mechanical instrument. And this is where that sovereignty becomes real. You can actually see it. This isn't just about code logic, it's about taste. The system enforces a specific, high-quality design language. I mean, look at this, a locked typography scale, a strict 8-pixel grid. But that last point is the real enforcer. Using a raw hex color code instead of a pre-approved design token isn't just a warning, it is a build-blocking failure. The system physically prevents ugly or inconsistent design. Human aesthetic vision is enforced as law. And this quote, this is the final word. It's taken directly from the system's legal documentation written for compliance with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It's a legal declaration of inventorship. It states, with no room for argument, that the human is the inventor, and the AI is merely the tool used for clerical drafting. It literally codifies human sovereignty into the chain of title for the intellectual property itself. And so that really just leaves us with this one last question. In a world that's rushing to adopt AI, this system forces us to stop and ask, who's really in charge of our code? Who's setting the laws? Who defines the aesthetic? As AI gets more and more integrated into everything we do, the question isn't just can we build something, but how we build it, and who or what is ultimately the sovereign architect.